Alright, let's see if this works. Testing if we are live here. Testing. Hello, hello? Are we good? Are we good? Are we... Is everything all good? We are live? Alright, sounds good. Hello, hello everyone! Welcome in, welcome in. Alright. Making sure everything is alright on this end. Hello, Sea Hero. Hello, Vessa. Hello, Thorn. Hello, Plus Boy, and hello, Dubious. And hello, Oatbat. How are you guys doing today? A face I don't recognize, but I'm on the newer side following, so hello and hi. Hello, hello. Yeah, this is not, I am not VTuber Senpai. I am, you can consider me like a substitute teacher today. Lillian, hello, welcome in. I am a little bit nervous. I hope you guys will, like, you know, take it easy on me today, but we're gonna have fun. We're gonna have fun. It's gonna be great. My Senpai, what big ears you have. Imagine if Senpai had big rainbow ears like mine. Hello, hello, Creating Randomness. Hello, Newbie Reaper. Hello, Pinkware. We're just gonna sort of let everyone come in here a bit. I've got everything all set up. And we are going to do a bit of a design tutorial type stream today. And I am going to allow questions. So if you guys want to talk about any of these, any of the fundamentals we go over, or if you want me to do any demos after my little lesson, then I am totally open to that. First time here? Hey, Foxfire, I like the name! I love the colors of your avatar, but I love soft blues and purples. Thank you, I appreciate that. Hello, Lycorus, welcome in, welcome in! Are we gonna learn how to paint our thumbnails in a fancy way? You guys are gonna take your thumbnails to the next level is what you're gonna do. If you give a super chat, it's gonna go directly to Senpai. Definitely support Senpai. Make sure you have subscribed to this channel, his channel, if you haven't yet. But yes, this is all on VTuber Senpai's channel. I'm just hosting, so any kind of super chats, follows, likes, it's going directly to support him. And I know that some of you guys might not recognize who I am if you are not in the VTuber Senpai Discord. I'm typically a mod in the Discord channel, so if you typically are only on the stream side of things, if you're only on YouTube watching those streams, then you might not you might not see me. But Vessa just posted my YouTube channel, so if you want to check that out, it is all art and design focused at all levels, from beginner to advanced. I mainly focus my art and design fundamentals on things for VTubers and content creators. So if you are interested, definitely check that out. I also have a video that has just been released on your 5 steps to making good thumbnails. So if you sort of want like a little background reminder, a little bit of a teaser on what we go on with the stream, then definitely check out that latest video because it's going to give a really nice overview on all the stuff that we talk about today. Yeah, if you want to post a video link directly to that one, that's totally fine. But anyway, I guess we'll start off by saying, like, for you guys, when you think about thumbnail design, when you're making your, for those of you who stream on YouTube and not Twitch, right? Because Twitch doesn't really have a need for thumbnails. When you're making your evergreen content, your YouTube videos, your thumbnails for streams, what are the main things that you like to try thinking about when you're making those thumbnails? Be lurking before I fall asleep. No worries, Grundle. I know it's late for you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Also, I'm gonna... if I call you guys stargazers at any point during the stream, I apologize. You guys are the chat in the class. I might get too used to other things. Maybe you'll be stargazers by the end of this. I don't know. But, you know, I'm just sort of going through the motions. You included the topic of the stream somehow? That's good, that's good. If it's for the game stuff, you use something that actually makes it clear what the game pertains to. That's good. Big letters, make it visible. I'm liking these answers. Yeah, definitely big letters. That's a really big one. We're gonna go over just how visible that you need to make things, because a lot of times it's really, you'd be surprised how much you have to enlarge things to make it visible. Emotion, expressions, yeah, I'm sure you guys see React channels all the time. Red borders, that's a good one. Red borders, yellow borders, something that like really catches the eye. A lot of people don't do borders, but I use borders myself. I think it helps a lot. Funny enough, I actually do have a red border on the stream here, so that works. Maximum 3 things in focus, good Annie. Avoid clickbait titles. Yeah, that's usually a helpful one. Don't know the name, but divide it into 9 squares and use the 4 points. So you are thinking of the rule of thirds. It is usually a photography concept where you would divide it in 9 squares, and then in the middle points, that's where you would want your main focus on your subjects. We can go over that if you want. I'll write a little note to myself there that we want to go on the rule of thirds. And if you guys have any questions throughout, I will try to save your questions and we can talk about them at the end as well. I'm a big fan of eye-catching colors lately. Dark thumbnails are too easily overlooked. Yeah, especially since a lot of people on YouTube are using dark mode, right? So if you have a dark thumbnail and most people are using dark mode, it's just kind of gonna blend into the background. I know, for example, Thornscale, I see him use a lot of bright yellow. That seems to work very, very well for him. He is also a purple dragon VTuber, and purple and yellow are opposite colors, so the contrast is really, really strong. What works for me is the background picture or image that can tell you what the video or live stream will be about. Watch someone like Point Crow. Don't give away all my tips from the video. Borders are good, but red blends in a little with the bar at the bottom that tells you if you watch something. That's true, yeah. But I think for new time viewers it works, because red is still something very eye-catching. How's it like to have power? I'm just the substitute teacher today. I'm not doing anything nefarious. I don't have any use for this power. I like the red borders, have a big image of what I'm streaming with big letters, and a drawing of my character themed with what I'm streaming. Ooh, nice. Yeah, I mean, if you can have, like, custom drawings of your character doing certain things pertaining to streams, it's definitely more on the advanced side to have that, but it is really eye-catching. I usually have white borders. That's good for people who are on dark mode. For text, I'd be careful of not making it too bright. That would hurt the audience eyes. Yeah, that's fair. Great if you have fan art. That's true, that's true. And always credit the fan artists, right? Alright, so we are going to jump into my main scene here. So we've got our main thumbnail that you guys probably saw before watching the stream. I'm employing some of the ideas that we're going to be talking about today, including the red border, as we mentioned, right? So, Zelix, who's been saying red border, good job there. And we're just going to start off here, and we are going to talk about design challenges and struggles. So I want to start off a little bit by asking you guys maybe what it is that you personally have struggled with before. Fun facts about the fan art. I saw Rin Penrose's shorts tell fan artists to make the fan art transparent, so it's easy for her to use them in a thumbnail. Yeah, exactly. Sneaky Easter eggs tell the guest is. No, it's not like my ears are iconic or anything. Really like the text design? Thank you. Yeah, we're trying to go bold and bright here. Music's a little loud? Alright, sorry about that. I was trying to test it earlier, so I do apologize for that. Is that better? I can turn it down more if you want. Hopefully this should be good. Better? Alright. It's really hard to tell. I was trying to test it earlier. Senpai even gave you the super advanced whiteboard technology. So, fun facts. I actually, made this sort of mock-up whiteboard myself, a little bit of like a, whiteboard you'd have at home. When I was using screenshots from games, I found my thumbnails look too cluttered. Yeah, that's a big thing. I've seen a lot of people who have very cluttered screenshots when they're using game thumbnails, and the reason is because it usually doesn't have a central focus. That's why, like I'll show you guys later, when I do that, I usually see if there's any part I can blur out. Removing backgrounds from things you want to use when it's not able to be done cleanly. Yeah, that's a good one. Not able to cleanly... Not typing here. Oh, come on. Why are you being difficult? There we go. Not able to cleanly remove backgrounds. My biggest issue is thumbnail, trying to figure out which font to use. I'm terrible at that. I never know what to pick. What fonts to use, we'll definitely be going over that. I try to copy the font of the game I'm playing, or at least theme it so it's the same. That's always a good idea. So maybe theming fonts? Oh, come on, why are you not happy? Not able to remove clean backgrounds, and we'll just say cluttered as well. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so we can actually fit things in here. There we go. Comforta font, best font. I'm not actually familiar with that off the top of my head. I might have to look into that later. Amount of images, yeah. Amount of images. Oh, why are you not... Alright, he wants to be picky with me, I guess. Many games have press pages with marketing material. Yeah, that's true. My biggest issue is size balance for text and image. That's a good one. Okay, size balance. When to add your face in the thumbnail. To add yourself in, alright. It's not good for thumbnails, I just find myself using it all the time. I'm gonna check that out at some point, because I use one that's also not good for thumbnails, that I just sort of have as like a brand font as well, so I get that. In Senpai's channel, you don't have to have perfect spelling. Fair enough, fair enough. So I think that this is pretty good, right? So I'm gonna copy these over. We'll make sure that we address some of these. Comforta font, there we go. I do have a different setup than I normally do, so forgive me if I'm just sort of jumping around a little bit. But that's good, right? So to start off, I want to go over what I normally see when... okay, I don't want to be unkind about this, but what I would say as a thumbnail that could use work, right? And all the thumbnail examples that I'm going over in this lesson are my own, so I'm only insulting myself here. This is a thumbnail example that I've made as an example of what you probably shouldn't be doing when you make thumbnails. Can anyone right off the bat tell me what is sort of sticking out to them as, like, you know, especially if you have not watched my video? Is there anything that is bothering you that just doesn't feel right? Can't read the text, too many images, very busy, everything is sticking out. Fire background. Background and the text are clashing. No PNGs. Graphic design is my passion. Yes, oh my gosh. Exactly. So, right off the bat, right, we can see some pretty problematic things here. So, this is a thumbnail that I made to sort of address this imaginary concept of if we were trying to make a video on like playing the Pokemon game, using our first Pokemon starter and like trying to beat the game with the Pokemon starter, right? So for those of you who have played Pokemon, you're probably familiar. I tried to use the most familiar Pokemon I could think of that wasn't Pikachu. So, right, this character is Charmander. It is the starter Pokemon you get in the first Pokemon game. You intentionally made a bad thumbnail, but I've seen real thumbnails like this. I mean, yeah, I have too, to be fair. I mean, this was me before graphic design school. Yeah, but now your work is like super, super clean. I had graphic design at school second semester. I'm already angry. If it says with only Charmander, why is the Leaf Boy there? That is a very good point, right? So I've seen a lot of people, right? If we grab this image stuck together here, they want to make a video on a game, and they're adding things from either a sequel to a game or a different part of the game, stuff that has nothing to do with the actual game that they are trying to make a video on, right? Pokemon is just a very clear example because there's usually 2 versions that you can purchase. So that I intentionally did because I have seen people basically struggle to communicate the message, right? Because the title, if you can even read it, says that it's about beating the game Fire Red, right? So we really don't need the Leafy Boy here. So to improve this, we will just crop him out like so. And now we're focused more on Fire Red with Charmander. It's such a good bad thumbnail. So what are some other, like, okay, beside the fact that there's no transparent background here, what else do we notice about these 2 pictures? Do you think people don't know how to crop out stuff like that, or are they just being lazy? I think that it's not a matter of not knowing how to crop things out. I think it's a matter of not knowing that it's creating a confusing message. Fan art used probably without permission. Yes, exactly. Exactly. I actually do have the artist here, if you are curious, including the artist. This is official Pokemon art. It's from the trading card game. So the reason I included this one is that even though it's official Pokemon art, it's from a card game, and our video is about the video game. So by including art from the card game, I think you are also creating confusion for the audience, right? This is actually probably the most common problem I saw. When I was doing research for how I wanted to go about this lesson, I would so many times see people wanting to do stuff about a video game or about, about something very specific. And they would use, like, screenshots from the anime, pictures of the plush toys, pictures of trading cards. But then you'd click on the video and it would be about the video game. So I think that having something like a trading card is not useful. And then, as you guys said before, you have fan art that is not credited. Also, it doesn't look very good because, yes, even though Huiro does extremely adorable art, he obviously doesn't provide it with a transparent background because he doesn't really want to make it easy for you to use. That's why when someone else was talking about Rin Penrose saying, please give me the transparent version, that's because she intentionally wants to credit her artists, right? She is opening that up to you guys. Like, if you want to make me fan art to use on stream, please make this easier for me to use. So a lot of times artists will intentionally put in not transparent versions because they don't really want you to be using their work. So let's get rid of the fan art there. We don't really need the credited artists because we can see that it really doesn't do us any good. That was like the first set of cards. Yep, original base set. And then this character here, this boy, our trainer protagonist, why doesn't he fit the concept of our video? Pyra, hello, welcome in. So he doesn't fit the concept of our video because it has nothing to do with the trainer. We're talking about beating the game with a Pokemon. And yes, you know, you're running around as the character, but it's not the focus of the video, and when you want people to focus on a specific idea in your video, you don't want to add anything that is more confusing. So, I think we can get rid of him too. Isn't he from Red and Blue? Yeah, I mean, Fire Red is a remake of Red and Blue, but same idea, right? And then, so now we're just left with this big fire background, we're left with this really hard to read text, and we're left with the game. So what else could we do that would improve this? Well, we could consider maybe using some official art of Charmander, right? Because so far, there is no official version of Charmander with a title about Charmander. A screenshot of Charmander might be nice. Old people like me can't read the font. What would be... Okay, if we had to improve this font right now, what would you do to it? Or, first off, border around the font to fix the readability? Alright. So, let's make this, let's say, the background is black, so let's go with a white, perhaps? Maybe we'll make that a little thicker so we can actually read it. Is that more legible? It's better, right? We can kind of see it. Much more? No? No, we're not really happy with it yet? Better but stark. I feel kind of blinded by it. Alright. What if we... What else could we do here? The font is boring. Maybe the text should be completely white. Alright, let's try that. That works, right? Are we getting there? A bit, but no. Alright, alright. Worse. Try red for the outline. How about something like... Maybe we'll make it a little darker? Start seeing it a little bit better? Simplify the text and increase the font size with a shorter title. Newbie Reaper, you are going way ahead here. I like that. Absolutely no. Alright, alright, alright. I'll stop teasing you guys. So why don't we jump... Before we do something with the text, are we okay with this background? With all of this fire going on here? The background? Make it funny, the title's just there to summarize. The background's a little busy. Alright. Just use an orange background? It's too much? I don't know, I think it's kind of pretty. Okay, so what you guys have told me so far is change the background, change the font, and add Charmander, right? So, how about something like this? Are we getting there? It's legible, right? We can totally read it now. The fire's busy. Could shrink it down to the bottom of the screen a bit. I got told no when I was gonna use a fire background. Better, but still needs more work. The text could be cut down. Better, but still bad. Well, we've got official art here, right? We've got official art of Charmander. We've got official art of Pokemon Fire Red. And you guys told me to make it red and add outlines, and we can read it now. So, I think you should be fine with this, right? So, someone said that we could simplify the text. Notice how we have the word Fire Red and the game Fire Red. We have it both in the title and the picture. That's a bit redundant. That's not from the game, though? What's not from the game? Seems kind of cluttered. The title could be much simpler. I did see Annie say something about using the word only Charmander. So, let's try that. We're good to go, right? Charmander solo challenge. So you guys made a very good point about having the official art, having the game, not repeating things, simplifying the text. Use the logo of the game? Why should we use the logo? This Charmander should be the little pixeled one from the game. This one is from the show. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a pretty clear way to say that we're talking about Charmander. Do we really have to use the one from the game if we're doing a video about the game? I don't know. I think this official art is a lot cooler. It reduces the amount of images and makes it easy to read. Okay, so far we have a video about beating Fire Red with only Charmander, right? So I want to beat the game, and if anyone here is familiar with the Pokemon game, then you usually have to, like, have badges, right? You have to collect, like, the gym badges, and you have to get enough so that you can reach the end of the game, right? So I want to show off that you need those 8 gym badges to beat the game. So how about something like this, right? Like, Charmander's looking all cool and tough. We've got our 8 gym badges for the game. I took your advice and I got rid of the box art and I used the logo. How's this looking? So you said earlier, can you clarify what you think is best to stick with on the original media versus using the best art, even if it's from another medium? So when I consider the different media, I consider how much of the media is the focus of the video, right? So in this case, I'm specifically doing something related to a video game. Therefore, I think that, talking seriously now, I think that using the anime screenshots confuse people when they think that it's going to be about something from the anime, right? Because on YouTube, a lot of people are going to be looking at clips from the anime. So if they want to know that it's going to be about the video game, they should be using assets from the video game. Whereas, let's say if you just want to talk about a very vague concept on Pokemon, right? Like, we want to make an entire video on why is Charmander's tail on fire, right? It's a very general concept. We might go into some science. We might start talking about lizards. We might start talking about the properties of fire as an element. And in that case, I don't think there's anything wrong with using the anime screenshot because it's not specifically about a video game or specifically about the trading cards. It's just the general idea of what is this strange creature with fire on its tail? And in that case, I think that using something from the anime would still make sense, or, using the official art. But if we're gonna do something where we're including the logo of a video game, then having all of these points about, from the anime and from the merchandise art and all that, is kind of throwing things off a little bit. Hear me out. First background would be fine if you, 1, shrunk the fire, put a big picture of Charmander centered in the image, use only Charmander for the text slightly behind Charmander. That would actually work. Still cluttered? There's like 2 steps forward, 4 steps back challenge. I'd have a huge Charmander with a badge on his chest. Ooh, that could be cool. This is a bit picky, but is using the game logo fine for the thumbnail? One artist I worked with before in the past is worried if they use the game logo, it's considered copyright. So, I don't really have, like, a big yes or no on that. I can't really speak on that 100%. People are using a lot of the game logos in stream thumbnails all the time. To me personally, and this is not legal advice, I think if you're making it clear that you are not making merchandise, making something to compete with them, you know, if it's just like streaming the game or making fan content, I think that there are certain cases it could be okay, but again, not a lawyer, not giving any official advice. If you are worried about it, don't use the logo. Plain and simple as that. If you didn't want to use the logo, you do not have to. If you think it is safer not to, do not use it. In that case, I would just do something like this. I'd have the text. I might... Let me see if I can grab this real quick. I might say Pokemon Fire Red. And instead of red, I would make it yellow because it is more akin to the logo art. And we're jumping a little bit ahead here, but just to answer that question, because I do think it's an important one, we would probably change this font to anything else, just so that we could have something that is different. Obviously, this doesn't look good right now. I just want to make a quick demo that you do not feel pressured to use the logo if you are uncomfortable, and use something that is more generic, but still stands out from the text of your thumbnail, right? So yes, if you're worried about that, then use something else. Completely understandable. Phoenix, hello, welcome in, welcome in. So yes, obligatory, not lawyer advice. That's what I would do. This still gets the idea across perfectly well. If you want, you could even find something that is more fitting for something like Pokemon. You might find something that's a little, maybe more, it has a little bit more movement, right? Because the Pokemon font has a lot of sort of this up-down effect. So I might go for something like Blomberg, or this sort of like funny movement text, anything that kind of gives you the overall vibes of the logo, right? Could even use the blue-black outline. Yeah, absolutely. Could change this black to a blue, make it a little darker. You can do a lot to sort of fake it if you wanted. You could even, like, for example, let's just bring up the logo just so we know what we're working with. You could even, you know, make the P bigger, make the K bigger, make the M bigger, and we'll make the N bigger, and then we will make the E lowercase, right? You can even do that little tilde mark they have, right? And we'll make this E much smaller. And already, obviously it's not great, but it definitely gives us a feeling of this game title without actually using the title. Can we put the glow effect highlight around? We definitely could. We'll get to that, we'll get to that. You guys are jumping a little bit ahead here. Wish I can say longer, but I have stuff to do. Good luck with the rest of the stream. Yeah, no worries, Sky. Thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it. There's text you can download that looks like the game text. That's true, too, yeah. I actually heavily dislike the Pokemon logo for that. They want to make it, like, you know, fun and adventurous and having a bunch of things going on. But anyway, I think you guys get our main concept here. So you guys are probably less at the beginner level, more at the intermediate to advanced level. But basically, our main change here is we're going to get rid of the stock art, we're going to get rid of the screenshots, we're going to use pixel art, and because I couldn't find any good images that show the badges that weren't from the anime, right? I tried to find the pixel version, and it just doesn't look right. So I was trying to think about other ways that I could describe the thumbnails, right? So what I ended up doing instead was changing my idea, and instead of using the badges, I used the location at the end of the game. Because I felt that the location at the end of the game still communicated that we are beating the game, because you can't access it without the 8 badges, right? And we could use that as, like, the whole background. So this is the next version we have, and it does have the logo because it worked well for the demo. So this is our updated and improved logo, right? It really jumps now that we've changed the background. I know it's supposed to be able to sell toys, but I still hate it. No worries. What program is this? This is Affinity Designer. It is similar to like a Photoshop Illustrator type tool, but it's like a one-time payment. I'm not sponsored by them, I just really like using them. Much better. We can actually... Okay, do you guys think that this is as far as we can go? Do you guys think that this is like the best thumbnail that we could be making? This is like, everything's been solved here, right? You know, we replaced all the images, we replaced the background, we made the font easier to read. Not using Clip Studio like normal? Because this is actually what I use for graphic design. Clip Studio is much better for paintings and illustration. What about the badges? We are replacing the badges with the background because the background is a clearer idea without using something abstract and hard to understand and using too many images. We turned the purpose of the badges into our background, basically. We can do more? We can't do more? Probably not. Let's go beyond. Probably not, but you can consider time versus what you could improve. There's a couple things you could change, but it's better than the previous ones. Right now I'm using a polished background eraser. Yeah, Affinity Designer is like the whole program. I actually do all of my thumbnails in it. I think we could change the position. The blue-yellow Pokemon logo kind of clashes with the green of the forest behind it. Maybe a red backlight to help contrast when the thumbnail is smaller. But someone who hasn't played the Pokemon games wouldn't understand. Everything is blending together. Okay. Everything is blending together. Annie just said that everything's getting kind of lost here. So the reason that everything is getting kind of lost is because everything's a little bit flat, right? We've got pixels on top of pixels, and it's, you know, we've got our outlines here, and the logo has an outline, and our version has an outline, but it's still very flat. There's nothing creating depth, right? That's the main thing. There's nothing creating depth, and we can actually expand the size of things so much more. The other thing I want you guys to pay attention to is that, notice we still have these two words exactly the same, right? Same font, same size, same color, same everything. My urge to pixelize the text, then we really couldn't see it. Do you think it looks too odd having Charmander in pixel art with the rest of it not? With the rest of it not? What do you mean? The background is pixel art too. It's on my phone, but I don't think my thumbnails are too bad. Oh, oh, Pat, thank you for subscribing on my YouTube channel. I'm sorry, I forgot I had my own alerts on. I brute force my way on graphic design with Paint Tool Sai when it comes to my thumbnails, and when it comes to logos, I use Illustrator. This is basically like a poor man's Illustrator, to be honest. He needs more pixels. Give him 1,000,000 pixels. I didn't know what to tell you. I'm sorry, I forgot I had the alerts on. If you have it set to have your subscribers private, it won't show up. I do apologize for that. I use Canva for thumbnails. Canva's definitely fine for thumbnails. If you want to go, like, completely free, Canva totally works. Also, hello, Lady Red. Welcome in, welcome in. Needs over 9,000 pixels in Charmander. No, Vesta. Oh my gosh. Where was I? You guys are getting me off track here. Okay, so the next thing we want to do, because we can actually go further with this, one main thing that I want to address is that this is all the same size, right? Charmander only. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the word only. I'm actually going to duplicate this layer. It'll probably be easier for us. And what I'll be doing is I will make one word, the word Charmander, and the other word, the word only. And now, even though it is more work for people, this is definitely worth it, trust me. You want to have your text separated so that you can manipulate them separately, because it's just too hard to try to manipulate them separately when they're on the same layer and when they're doing the same stuff and all that. So what we're gonna do is we want to emphasize that we are only using Charmander, right? So to emphasize that, we'll capitalize it. We'll make it different. We are also going to increase it so that people can really see that this is a focus of the video, right? We're only using Charmander. And because I have these separated, they are easier to see. They are easier to work with. I can manipulate them so much easier. Welcome to Senpai's live stream where we'll always go off tangent. I'm gonna try to corral you guys back. Corral the students back. So, one thing we can do that will help make the thumbnail pop out is we can change the size. We can change the capitalization. We can even change the font. We can change the color, and we can change the intensity. So let's go with something like, I don't know, how about this one? This is, okay, a little more advanced technique, but when you really get into graphic design, you'll learn something called tracking if you're ever interested in this. And it just lets all of the, it just lets you individually manipulate letters so that they're closer together, like individually letter by letter. You don't really have to worry about that though, that's just really nitpicky. But yeah, so what we will do, we have, these are kind of feeling like the same font, so maybe we'll try something a little bit different, just so it stands out, right? Just so things feel a little bit different. Or we can keep them the same, it's fine. If we kept them the same, then we would want to change the color. So instead of an orange, we'll make this maybe like a yellow. Because yellow really pops out on YouTube, right? And then the other thing is now that we have this thing with Charmander going on, we kind of have him nicely positioned in the middle here. But if we zoom out, he's really not our focus. He's still getting kind of lost. And it's still pretty hard to read the word Charmander. So why don't we try this? Why don't we try making this a bit lighter? We can actually see it here. And to make Charmander stand out, we will actually increase the size. So he's like taking up a huge amount of the thumbnail, right? We want him to be our main focus. He's the star of our video. We want him to be huge. And it seems like he's taking up half the thumbnail, but that is A-okay, right? He's A-okay to be, like, the main star of our show. So if your main focus in a thumbnail takes up half the thumbnail, that is perfectly okay. We would rather make, like, the Pokemon part smaller to let the big giant Godzilla-sized Charmander take over. Yeah, the kaiju-sized Charmander, exactly. I was able to read only, but not Charmander well. Exactly. So that's the other thing. You want to step back a bit. You want to minimize your screen. And you want to make sure that even though you can see it close up when it's a bright red, when you zoom out, you can still see it, right? I think that's really important, that you can still see it from afar, because you're going to have some people watching you on mobile and some people watching you on PC, and different things are going to look different. I want to make the text have a white outline instead, because I just do not like black outlines. Oh, that's totally fair. What if we did something where we use two outlines? What if we did something where we used, let's say, a red outline? Oh, wrong part. To make sure I'm actually on the outline part of the layer, we'll make, like, something dark where we can still see it. And then we can go into layer properties and layer effects. And we can add a second outline. And we'll make this one white. We'll make this visible so we can see it. And now we have two outlines on top of each other. They're stacked. If you don't know how to do this in any of your digital art programs, another way that you can do this, aside from going into like weird layer things specific to the program I'm doing, duplicate the layer, right? So let me just go back here. I'll show you another way of doing it, right? There's our text layer. We've got one outline on it. This doesn't always work, but I have used it a bunch of times, and it does seem more applicable to multiple programs. We'll duplicate the layer. Now we have two versions of only. Keep them exactly over each other. Don't move it. Take the layer below, right? So now we've got the one behind it. And then change that outline to white and make it thicker. So we have one with yellow and red, and it's thin. And then we have one with yellow and white, and it's thinner. But when we stack them, we end up with two outlines, if your program is kind of finicky and doesn't normally allow that. That is a trick that I feel might work really well on Canva, and other free programs that might not have as many fancy ideas to them. Ronald McDonald core. Like the Aladdin movie poster, Robin Williams' genie was the big selling point. He took up a third of the poster. Yeah, exactly, right? He was like on the very top front of it. That's something you should turn into a short. Maybe I'll clip this later and do that. So the other thing we can do, and this might be a little more specific to different design programs, so unfortunately I'm not 100% sure what the rules are for this in Canva. But here's another thing that I like doing that just helps spruce the text up. Select your whole layer here, and I'm going to go from color to a gradient. And you can see here that I have it from white to yellow. And again, this is a little bit more specific to the program, but I want you to think about the principle of it so that if there are ways that you can finagle it in whatever program you're using, that you can take advantage of the general idea of the design. Because I have a lot going on here that's orange, I want to actually grab a tiny bit of orange, right? Maybe make it like a light orange or something, you can still see it. And what I want to do is I want to change the direction of the gradient so that it has this kind of cool, fancy effect where I'm using two colors at once. And automatically, there's something about this that just feels a little bit more premium, right? It just feels like there's a little bit more going on. It has almost like a little bit of an esports feeling, right? It's just, it's a little extra something that kind of can push things to their next level. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that second only that we had before. And I'm going to go into my layer properties. And again, if I was to do this in a different program, you know what? Let's just pretend we're doing this in another program. We can just keep duplicating those only layers as many times as we need to. And let's say we didn't have that extra border stroke. Maybe we don't. We'll get rid of it. You can't actually see that we got rid of it because it's on another layer. So you can just keep stacking these. And then we can go back into our strange properties and we can do something with like an outer shadow or an outer glow. Let's make this like a red and we'll make the radius huge, right? We can start seeing that. We might need that outline again just so that it's the same thickness. There we go. See if we can find that. We'll increase the opacity a little bit. We'll reduce the intensity so that it is a little more faded. And I can actually push this radius further than the numbers will allow me to go. And now we have something that gets pushed even more to make this text stand out on its own. Kind of figure out how to do this in Krita. I think it's possible. It should be possible in something like Krita. I imagine that that would work. But yeah, we can keep pushing, adding layers, adding text, adding gradients. You guys can go really crazy with this. And the other thing is, as we mentioned before, we've kind of got Charmander in pixel art form with a pixel art background. So there's kind of a little bit of a clash there too, right? Well, why don't we duplicate Charmander again? I actually don't need to duplicate with the program I'm using, but I'm showing you guys the duplication because I think it will help you in different programs that you're using. And then we will go to, where did I have this? Layer effects. We'll give it an outer glow, and we'll make it like a nice bright yellow. And we will push that intensity. If I can grab it correctly. I want to not make it crazy intense, because I want it to be soft and not feeling like an outline. And then I can even change this layer mode to something like a add glow. And this takes a little bit of finessing, but if I keep moving these numbers around that you can't see, if I keep moving these numbers around, then you can see that I am gradually experimenting with the color and intensity and the radius of how wide my glow is able to go. So with something like this, where I can now hide the layer effect so you can see it better, we've now punched the main character away from the background. That is huge. I'm sure a lot of you guys know the idea about making an outline around a character you're doing. This is the same thing. I'm just using pixels. I'm just using a glow because pixels would be a little harder to deal with an outline. But if you're doing something like your VTuber self and you're adding an outline like a white or yellow or a big eye-catching red or bright green, it will really, really help separate yourself from the background. So that's the other thing I would do, is I would add a glow or an outline to your main subject and make it take half that thumbnail. This is like your main focus of the video is of this character or of yourself. Really, really push that. And then the last thing I'll do, because I do think, well, I can also throw, you know, we can quickly do the same thing here. We can throw on some quick layer modes. We'll throw on a shadow. I don't really care what color it is at the moment. So I'm just sort of trying to demonstrate here. We'll have something like, I don't know, some the fire red version, and we'll take that off multiply and put it on normal so we can actually see it. I'm going a little bit fast just to not bore you guys here. And then, because we've got this really distracting background, it does help tell our story, but it's really not super, super necessary. We just kind of want to get the idea of it. So if we zoom out, it's still a little bit busy. There's still a little bit of distraction here. So what we're going to do, and this actually goes into what Thorn was saying about having too busy of a background, right? Have your main subject, grab the background, and blur your background a little bit. I did it on the whole group, so let me try that again. Blur the background so that your main subject stays in focus. So this is a little more confusing, a little bit harder to read. I'm just blurring the background and all the text is in focus. It looks way better. It's just the little tiny tricks, right? So it looks more premium, right? We have this thing that's just a little bit harder to read, a little bit more confusing. By blurring the background, we put our focus onto the character. And now we know this is about Charmander. This is our main focus of the character. And then if you guys want to see like how I actually ended up doing this with a bunch of experimentation back and forth, this is what I landed on at the end of my original demo. So the only difference that I have here is I picked some colors that worked a little bit better. I used only in bright red. And I toned the background image down a tiny bit warmer, just so everything would kind of flow together. Before and after comparison time from the very beginning, right? From the very beginning? Alright. Is this EU version? Is this what I have here? I kind of ruined bad version because I deleted a bunch of stuff, but let's go with EU version. Because I don't think you guys really need to see the part with the leaf green and all the stolen art. This still counts. So this is a really eye-catching thumbnail. Even if we are to zoom it out, we can still get the idea from a very far away distance. And close up, it just looks really nice and professional. And this is, for the most part, pretty much how we started off. So there's your before and after comparison, right? So we've changed the background, we've changed the stock art, we've changed the fonts, we've changed the titles, we've added glows, we've changed so many different things. And then we end up with this really nice, easy to see, bold font, bold text, glow. And it's just so much easier because if we were to zoom out to this, I have no idea what this video is about, and I'm just gonna move on to one that is easier for me to understand. Because that's the thing, right? You have split seconds among the whole world of YouTube, and then within your own niche, to capture the audience's attention in those little, tiny, tiny microseconds. And if you are really confusing, and if people have a hard time reading the thumbnail, can't really tell what the video's about, they're going to move on to something that is easier to understand. They're going to move on to someone who has a thumbnail closer to this, where there's a main subject, a main title, a main idea. And if you're just, you know, throwing everything in the kitchen sink together, your video might not get clicked on. Why would you want to zoom out on your thumbnails to see how they look from far away? Disclaimer, I actually know the answer. It's basically just the idea of being able to get the message very quickly. The faster you can get the message from a far away view, the easier you can see how well it's working, right? So we can tell that this one is really not working. This one's working a lot better. It's a great way to test your thumbnails. And one thing I had mentioned earlier is that depending on whether someone is on mobile or desktop, some things are easier to see than others, right? So a thumbnail on your desktop, when you're making it and you're using a giant monitor, it might look fine. And then when someone is scrolling through YouTube on mobile, you might not really be able to see anything, but you don't know it until you test it. Other thing that I want to quickly mention, and one other thing that I skipped over, but I need to address because it is my pet peeve, and Vessa knows exactly where I'm going to go with this. So, real quick, one other thing that we have to address that some people are not aware of is timestamps. Timestamps are going to be on any YouTube video, and they're always going to be in the lower right corner. As of this current live stream, I don't know if YouTube will ever move it. Hopefully they don't. But when you are designing your thumbnail, don't have any of those elements of text or main subject being covered with the timestamp, right? So, for example, like, you don't want to have your text here. I mean, even if it was fitting nicer. You basically just don't want to do this. You don't want to have it covered up. If we had something like this, I actually separated these out because it made it easier to add the glow. If you had something like this, it looks okay, but your text is being covered. Now, it's okay if your text is covered a little bit, especially if it's like a really large word. Like, let's say we didn't have the word only, we just had the word Charmander, and we did something like, you know, like this, just pretending. It's not great, but you can still kind of get the idea of who it is. Timestamp placement had caused me to have to change things before. And the possible red line at the bottom. Yeah, true. Thumbnails are small on YouTube. You're not going to have one thumbnail that covers your screen. Exactly. Many viewers would use the phone, so they would be small. True. Charmanded. Man, we've got Charmanded, Charmandel. I'm really showing my Pokemon knowledge here. Charman CD. Is the game title really needed? Could go in the title and description. The reason I added the game title was to help just show the idea of Pokemon Fire Red Charmander only. You wouldn't need to use it. And again, we were talking about using logos. If you wanted to just do this with existing text, right? Then I would do something like Pokemon Fire Red and have something where you've got a little bit of a different text, maybe a different size, This might be a little too much text. If you were to do something like that, I'd go pretty different. I would make it like, I don't know, an easier to read blue. This is probably more text than you would need. The reason that I was using the logo is because there's kind of a separation between text and image when you're doing something like that. If I was doing this, I'd probably get rid of the words fire red. It would probably be too busy. I might, you know, make the word Pokemon bigger, just in case people didn't know what this fire lizard was. I might do something like that. I'd play around with it more. I'd make it stand out a little bit more, but that is another option you could do. Or, alternatively, you could probably get rid of that word and you could have some other image that is helping tell your story. Maybe we went back to the idea with badges if you had something that wasn't the anime screenshot. And then, what was I saying here? Timestamps, I think, are good. And then the other thing that I want to go over is tangents. So I'm going to hide these examples, and we're going to go to our meh version. Do I even have the meh version here? Alright, I don't even have it here, so I'm gonna bring it up real quick. Give me a sec here. I have so many thumbnails, it's not even funny. We are going to go to our thumbnails, Charmander. I have made so many assets for Charmander, and we're going to go to the one that is with, I don't want you to see the tangents. There we go. Long time watcher, first time chatter. Do you think different Pokemon cause more clicks? I would probably say that if you're using something with Pikachu, it's going to be pretty generic all-audience stuff, and if you're using something with, say, Onix, you're going to cater to more of a fan niche, because Onix is a little bit less known, but you could probably do a lot with, telling your story about, like, maybe, you know, fighting against Brock in the game or something, and his team of Onix. If you're doing something like Pikachu, generally, I'm going to assume that your video is a general all-audience concept. If the stream's about Charmander, just put Pikachu, boom, 1 million views automatically. I wish. Alright, so real quick, because I just want to address this because I didn't address it before. What is the problem with this thumbnail? Aside from everything about, like, maybe we can't read it, maybe it's not clear, maybe we're using anime screenshots, what is something else you might notice about this thumbnail that's throwing you off? Onix is amazing? I mean, yeah, that's a pretty nice type of rock, but, you know, I was thinking about the Pokemon. If I see Gardevoir or Charizard, I'm clicking immediately. So, is there anything that is standing out that maybe might be throwing things off that is different than what we had previously discussed? So, we're not talking about the use of anime pictures. We're not talking about the text being hard to read. And we are not talking about the background or the logo. But is there anything else here that is sort of standing out to you as being a little bit uncomfortable, I suppose, would be the best way to say it. Text is too many different sizes? We only have one size on the text. It's all over the place. Is there anything about the individual elements? Alright. Pokemon logo and text overlap. Alright, we are getting there. Dubious is getting it. The images are overlapping. The images are overlapping. Okay. Are they overlapping, like, in this screenshot, where there's, like, a clear overlap? Or are they kind of, like, barely touching each other here? Barely touching each other. So, basically, this is a personal pet peeve of mine, and I see this all the time on thumbnails. Even if you have the best thumbnail ever, I'm constantly seeing this. And it is something that will help your design when you learn it. The dash over the E in Pokemon, it's touching the border, right? This N is touching the border. Fire Red is touching this screenshot. Charmander's touching Pokemon. Only is touching Charmander's head. These are what we call tangents. And I'm not talking about a tangent like when you guys go off on a tangent in the chat. I'm talking about a visual tangent, right? So a tangent in design is when images are just barely touching each other. You've got Charmander touching the word Pokemon, only touching his head, Pokemon touching the edge of the border. These are tangents in design, and they're a pet peeve of mine because it kills all of your idea of depth, right? When we have this weird touching aspect, especially like this N right here, right? Our Fire Red version, there's nothing in front of or behind. There's nothing, everything's kind of like stacked like sardines together. Everything's sort of pushed and sort of made to fit in awkward ways. And these are called tangents. So going to something that I can actually edit here. If we have something like, you know, barely touching here and barely touching here and all this stuff, it's just uncomfortable. There's a feeling where you want more space between your objects. There's a feeling where you want more breathing room, let's say. Again, going back to the sardine thing, right? You want breathing room between your objects. You want visual openness, right? Just this tiny little bit here. I see tangents mostly from you guys, like, on the edges. I see this so often. I'll see you put the text right here, right? And then I'll see you put the text here, and I'll see you put, like, the game image here. And it drives me crazy because it is a slight stress on your eyes. It is this slight uncomfortable feeling that it's almost like a weird visual claustrophobia, right? You want to be able to breathe. You want to be able to have all of these images be relaxing and easy to read. And when they're just touching each other, it creates this awkward space, and you just want to be able to give all your elements some breathing room away from the edge, away from the border here. And if you have a character who's like just touching the edge, then it would be much better to just make them bigger and have a nice crop where, you know, they're very clearly in front or behind something. Or if we're doing something with text, right? Like, it's very clearly behind. It's very clearly in front. So if you do something like this, it's not a tangent because you can see the overlap really clearly. And then if we do something like, going back to our layer effects, if we do something like an outer shadow or an outer glow, then there is very clearly this in front of and behind feeling. Empty space should be viewed as elements. They're just as important. Yes, exactly. Like an itch you barely can't reach. Yeah. I like having really big text go off the edges that the thumbnail can't contain. It gives an overlapping effect. If you can do a nice crop, like we were explaining with Charmander before, right? If you just, like, really make it obvious that there is a lot of cropping going on here, it can work. If I left it here, then you would have some problems, right? I'd either make it a little bit lower, have a little bit of breathing room, empty space is an element of design, or I might even do something like this, let's say, like, for me, right? A lot of times if I put myself in a thumbnail, my ears are huge. I usually have to crop off the tips of them visually. I don't want the very tips of my ears touching the edge. I will crop off the tips of my ears to make it easier and more pleasing. Now that everyone in chat has had the tangent noticing curse put on them, so you'll get to suffer like I have for the past year. Oh, it's so true. So, yeah, I pointed this out to Vesa about a year ago, and Vesa has gotten so good at pointing out tangents, that they can even point out tangents that I make that I'm not aware of in the moment. Maybe I have, like, a bunch of elements in an illustration, and I can't even see them. I just noticed I had this one on the fire, right? So this is the kind of thing where you would want to maybe, you're working on your thumbnail, you might want to step back, go get a snack, take a break, scroll social media for 3 minutes, come back, fresh set of eyes, and see if there's anything that's, like, really sticking out as being uncomfortable to you. Like, personally, I would even consider, like, this line here of Charmander's tail meeting his leg, I would consider this a tangent, because it's meeting, like, right at the edge here. So I'd probably make it a tiny bit bigger, in a way that doesn't move my screen around. Just so that we get rid of that, that little line, right? Just give it a little bit easier to breathe room. It's like playing the game where we all... Oh, jeez, I'm not reading that. I get to yell at my mom when she's making things for my channel now for tangents. Now you should be, like, prepped to be doing your own design work, right? Like, after this stream, I hope that I'm not seeing anyone doing stuff, we can go worse. I hope I'm not seeing anyone doing stuff like this, right? I think we have gotten to the point where we have gone beyond that. Doing what Senpai told me to do. Senpai, thank you. That is a link to my, socials if you want to, follow me for design tips anywhere else. I also sometimes do streams where I do thumbnail design reviews, so keep your eyes out for that sometime. With knowledge you shared, when should we make a thumbnail? I know that sounds different for everyone. What is your best advice? So, personally, I'm not great to answer that because I actually make my thumbnails, like, right before stream. Because I usually follow more of a template since mine are usually art-based. Most of my thumbnails are usually, like, quick text that I can repeat if I'm doing, like, a stream with, an art piece that's taken a few streams. I can usually make one and then just keep replacing the image in it, so mine are actually pretty quick. If I'm doing something like an evergreen video, however, my thumbnails can take 1 to 2 hours on average, and I personally make them after I make the video because I think it is easier to figure out what is the best form of the summary. I know there's other people who sort of like to get a better idea for the video by making the thumbnail first. I personally find it easier to make the thumbnail after, and then I can look back into the video and figure out what are the best, most important parts to summarize. Looks like a thumbnail saying we're playing Pokemon in the underworld. I want to make my own thumbnails, but my friend wants to do everything design related for my channel. Is gonna insist on doing it. Try a little bit of both, try seeing if they want to do some stuff for you. Try it yourself. Someone was mentioning they do all their thumbnails in Canva. Definitely check out Canva. It's completely free. The program I'm using is a little bit pricey, but it's a one-time payment, unlike something like Adobe where you're paying monthly. I'm personally using this for all of my thumbnails. It works great if you want to get into the design thing. If you just want to start off free, Canva's a great choice. It'll do a lot of the things that I showed here, including things like outlines and glows and all that. Again, that is the reason why I showed you guys when we go to the good version here. Or let's see what I had. This almost version. That is the reason I showed you guys about duplicating and separating your text and stacking them onto each other, is because simpler programs are more likely to be more flexible in allowing you to do that. Whereas something like a fancy program, you can usually just do all of it on one layer. Simple program, you can do the fancy techniques, it just takes a little bit of extra work. So this is really good if you're using something like Canva. Just keep, duplicating and adding different effects and overlapping them. If it's a video, I'd say whenever you know what is the most important as you edit it down and such is my gut feeling. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Like, when you're editing your video, you're knowing how you want to summarize it, because your thumbnail should basically be a teaser of what your video is about, right? you don't want to, as we showed in the beginning, you don't want to have every single element of your video in the thumbnail. You want to figure out what the main point is. So what we are going to do now, that you had this large lesson in thumbnail making with Charmander, is if you guys have any questions that you haven't that I haven't answered, or if you want me to do any demos, if you want me to sort of show any techniques or something you would like to see, definitely let me know, and I can do that right now. Because I'm sure you guys probably have questions at this point. I'm sure you guys would want to see a demo. The 1/3 rule. Okay, yes. Rule of thirds. Thank you, iPad. I appreciate that. So the rule of thirds, we're going to grab a basic piece here. I'm not going to be making this perfectly because I don't really have the ability to at the moment. I don't really have a grid system going on, but let me just try this. Best way I can live. So we have a border here. Again, this is not going to be perfect because this is going to be very hard to do live. And then I'm going to have this outline, and we're going to attempt to break this into thirds. This stroke is huge. I'm going to thin this up a little bit. And we're going to hope that these are about accurate, right? I'm eyeballing it at the moment, so it might not be great. But just bear with me here. And we're going to put one more on the top. We're going to try to get that right in the middle here. And I'm going to set this to multiply so that it will go through everything. There we go. All right. Little grid system. Not going to be perfect, but best I can get at the moment. Like doing a movie pitch. Cut the whole movie down 15 words or less. For Alien, Jaws in Space as an example. Yeah, there you go. I could send the grid. No, I mean, I could look up a rules of third grid really easily. I just feel like there's like a really fast way to do it. Crafting table, there you go. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that most movie posters are probably created after the movie is made, right? Because they need to figure out the best way to summarize the idea of the movie. So I think that a movie poster can be treated in the same way as a YouTube thumbnail. It's best to sort of, like, in my personal opinion, have all the content that you've made, have the edited video, have the idea of how you would give an elevator pitch of your video. You guys know what an elevator pitch is if you've been watching the stream, right? Explain is that your main elements, I'm going to try to make this stroke really big so you guys can see it, is in these corners, right? So as you can see here, I've got sort of my main idea for Charmander sort of like right at his nose in this point. I've got my logo just about here in this point, and my main text on this point. And you don't have to hit all of them, you just want, you want your main subject to be hitting this area. Is it the same thing as gold ratio? It's related, it's a little bit different, it kind of goes hand in hand. It's like a nice pairing with the golden ratio. If I had to go with the golden ratio, we'd be here a while, because that's the thing where it's like this whole spiral and Fibonacci sequence and mathematics, and at that point you're gonna think that I'm, like, obsessed with the Da Vinci Code, so... But yeah, you don't have to hit every single point. As Sakura said, you want to hit at least 3. Like here, we obviously aren't really focusing too much on the hands or the tail, but we've got our main subject, and like I said, YouTube thumbnails are a little bit different, but if this was photography, this wouldn't be... okay, this is hard to explain. If I can grab my good version here, and I can kind of like squish it a little bit, just pretend you can't see the bad one, then it would kind of have this ratio. And we would be able to see... It's hard to grab everything here. We'd be able to see these elements a little closer together. So, if I was doing that without squishing Charmander, of course, because now he's a little scrunched, he'd probably be about here. Again, this is such a mess right now, but this is considering that we're not working on thumbnails. This is just like how it is in photography. I'm just trying to explain that the rule is being accounted for in photography, and thumbnails have a different screen ratio. So Charmander actually fits the rule of thirds when I'm accounting for it in a photography size. I hope that makes sense. I hope you guys can kind of see what I'm getting at. Because a photo is going to be different than your screen. I'm not trying to throw math at you guys, but that's why we're not going to go over the golden ratio today. But this is typically a size for a photograph, right? Like a photograph is typically 4 by 6 inches, let's say. So it's not going to be as wide as a YouTube video. It's going to be a little more scrunched in. So taking that into consideration, Charmander is hitting that rule of thirds. I'm gonna get rid of all of this visual noise here. But hopefully that makes sense. So you still can use the rule of thirds on a YouTube thumbnail. I'm just explaining why it's not quite matching up here, is because it's a little bit outstretched. Is it possible to get the message of the thumbnail clear by using just images without any text or logo? Yes, absolutely. And I know what you're going to say, Sihiro. So, let me see if I can pull this up here. So there is a YouTuber. Whoa! I've lost all my tabs. Give me 1 second here. Throw this back. Throw this back. And you can see everything. Awesome. Technical difficulties. There we go. We should be good, right? Lovely. I wish I did that. That's not my work. I wish it was my work. That's my background because that's one of the art pieces that kind of really inspired a painterly style that I've been working on. So, that's sort of like been an inspirational piece. But anyway, I was trying to do this so that we could like trying to not go through my files here. Alright, it's fine. It's fine. I think we have it here. Charmander, and where's my example of good thumbnails? I don't have the Point Crow ones up here, do I? Yes, I do. Alright. So this is a thumbnail from a YouTuber named Point Crow. And if any of you guys have played Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, or Breath of the Wild, both work the same way, you kind of get an idea of what this is talking about immediately, right? So, do I even need to give you the title? If you've played the game, right? So obviously if you haven't played the game, you might be very confused. But if you have played the game, then you'll know that this little ring here represents, like, the stamina that you have in the game. How far you can run before you get tired. And every time you play the game, the minute you start running, the ring appears. It's immediately there, you can't miss it. So all they did was have a circle and an X, which, you know, universally we know means no, on the stamina wheel. So if you're familiar with the game, you know there's a stamina wheel, you know this is the character that you play as, you know that it's a negative, so you immediately know that the video is about no stamina, or not using stamina. And that is the title of the video. It's, Can I Beat Tears of the Kingdom Without Using Any Stamina? It's immediately clear. You don't need words at all. Actually, I find that most of the most impactful thumbnails, in my opinion, don't actually use text. I feel like text is still the best when you are trying to convey basics, but if you're really, really good and you can just get your idea down with no text at all, that's probably ideal. Here's another good one. You guys obviously know him, right? We obviously know who this is. So, again, I don't need to tell you anything about the video. You immediately get the idea that Mr. Beast has done something crazy, bought something crazy, given away something crazy. It doesn't really matter what it is, but it's obviously something to do with a giant cruise ship, and it's very impactful, and you want to know what he's doing with the giant gold cruise ship. It's Aspen Gold. So, again, no text needed. I think that some of the most advanced YouTubers who really, really know what they're doing, like, right, Mr. Beast, 100 million subscribers. Point Crow, I think, is at, like, 100,000, I'm not entirely sure, I don't know off the top of my head. Really good at what they're doing with communicating ideas in thumbnails. Thumbnails don't need to do 100% of the work, there will always be the title to finish the job. But that wouldn't save a bad thumbnail. Exactly, yeah. Like, that's what I was saying in the beginning, right, with the Fire Red example, is you don't need to write the word Fire Red and then have the box art Fire Red and then the logo Fire Red all in one thumbnail. You just need the one word to describe it, or the one key to describe it. Maybe, like, if I could think of a better way of doing it, I might just use the pixel art of Charmander and maybe just the background, and then maybe just something with the badges, or just something to show, like, you know, the end champion screen or something. You don't always have to have text. Where I'm at my level, I find that text kind of still helps bring things around. But if you're someone like Mr. Beast's level, you can get away with not having text. The other thing, again, you know, thinking about Mr. Beast and Point Crow, these are really big YouTubers. We've kind of gone over this when we're talking about streamers, right? Why can't I stream any game I want? Why can't I go with any niche? Why can't I do this really popular thing that everyone is doing? Why can't I succeed playing GTA, right? Like, why am I seeing all of my favorite streamers or YouTubers do something, and why does it not work for me? It works for these guys because they've developed the audience that have eventually learned to recognize their style of thumbnails, right? And this is through years and years of research and years of experimentation, and this is what they have found works for them. If you tried doing something like this right off the bat, first of all, in this case, you'd probably look like a Mr. Beast copy because there's hundreds of people that have tried to copy his thumbnail style. But two, it might not be as effective for you because people don't know who you are. So using text in the beginning gets people more intrigued as to maybe the very specific thing that you're making a video on. And then as you get more and more well-known, your thumbnail style becomes more recognizable, and people can sort of understand what a video from you looks like, right? I feel like some of them can do better only after they're known, as people will know them. Yeah, exactly. If you slapped in VTuber Senpai instead, it would just confuse people. At the moment, maybe. But we're definitely, we're gonna get to the point where we can throw VTuber Senpai on here next to a gold yacht, and people will just take it as, like, being completely normal. So make sure that you're subscribed to VTuber Senpai's channel if you haven't yet. Definitely join his Discord, and you'll see more of me. If you need to, if you want to ask me design questions, I'm more than open to that. What carat gold we talking? I'm not sure. But you guys basically get the idea, right? I think I have one more here of Link somewhere that I might have saved. I thought I did... Yes, here we go. So this is another one, right? This is another one from Point Crow, because I just think that Point Crow does an amazing job with his videos. Again, you don't have to have ever played the game to get that something crazy is going on here, right? So... this could be Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild. I happen to know it's Tears of the Kingdom because of the newer looking outfit. But something here is very dangerous. He even added a slight glow here onto Link. I think these are separate images, so this looks like it was almost done manually. Not as clear as the no stamina one, but very simple. To be fair, I don't think you can get much clearer than the no stamina one. I think this is still probably as clear as you could get for this particular concept, right? But, I mean, you can immediately tell, like, this character's in danger. He's hanging on to something for dear life. There's lava right underneath him, and there's this broken heart, and then one filled one. And you can kind of get the idea that it's sort of going down, right? You can't really, it's kind of getting more and more dangerous. So the title of this video is, I believe, it's Can I Beat This Game Without Taking Any Damage? And it's just very clear, very easy to read. You can see he's using these shadow effects that really help separate him from the background, because if you played the game, you know it's all cel-shaded. You know these would all kind of mesh together. Maybe the color of his skin against the lava wouldn't really stand out. So this shadow works really, really well to be able to separate the character from the background. So yeah, you do not always have to use text, but it's really hard to get a good thumbnail without text. It's really tricky. I think that you can definitely develop a style, and the more recognizable your work is, the more effective it could probably be over time. And you can definitely develop your own look to things. Again, you know, sorry to use you as an example again, Thorn, but if you look at Thorn's thumbnails, he has everything with these bright, bright yellows now, and I can just kind of immediately feel when there's a Thorn video on my feed, because it is like, you know, the purple dragon and then the bright yellow, and it's like a really good contrast because they're opposite colors, right? We go here, see if I can pull over my color wheel here. He is a purple dragon, and he is using colors, like, he's about here, and he's using colors about here. It's almost directly opposite. So it's a huge amount of contrast. Really easy to see. You don't want to you probably don't want to go with like a bright red and a bright green, because that'll just be eye-searingly painful. But if you do something like a bright red, like this heart, and a mellow green, like these sort of green-gray mountains, or a little bit on the tunic here, then it can work very well. But yeah, does anyone have any other, any questions or any demo things that I can go over? Anything that you've sort of been wondering about? My hair is like a light blue. What is my opposite color? Your opposite color is orange. So let's go back to that color wheel. Your hair is about here, I would say, right? This kind of light teal, sort of a little bit, not super saturated, a little bit less saturated. Your opposite is going to be an orange, an orangey red. So like about here, I would say. Darkish orange, lightish red. Yep, exactly. So these contrasting colors, or as we usually call them, like complementary, are going to be on the opposite sides of the color wheel. If you've got something pinkish red, you can do well with green, but again, don't do bright green and bright red. It'll be awful looking. Make one lighter, one darker, one more saturated, one less saturated. More saturated is when you have the most color. So when I'm going like right to the edge here of this triangle, and it's really, really bright and vibrant. Less saturated is when I'm going closer to the grays, right? This is losing saturation. Hue is the actual color itself. So when I say you need to saturate something more, I'm saying that you need to push the vibrancy and intensity of the color. There's a name for lightish red, it's pink. Not always, I won't get super into that, but there's like, you know, there's a purplish pink and there's like different hues of pink. But if you just take like an orange red and then you make it lighter, it's gonna end up with like a peach. So you sort of have to play both with the intensity and the saturation and the hue. It all goes together. Infrared is my favorite. Use a lot of pretty hot magenta pink, so I usually use a desaturated mint blue. Exactly, yeah. So if Sakura is using like a really bright, intense magenta, they're going to want to cut that back and use something that is a little cooler and easier on the eyes. But I think you guys get it, right? Like I was saying here, you've got like your desaturated mountains and your bright red heart, so it works well. And then you've kind of got this yellow, which is in between the two, and they balance each other nicely. Are there any other thumbnail techniques that you would want me to go over that are something that you have been trying to do in your own thumbnails that sort of hasn't really been working out? Charmander would be close to that color blue for opposites. True, yeah. Like, Charmander would actually fit pretty well in this image, I would say. You've got the lava, which would go well with the theme, but you've also got the blue sky and the greenish-gray mountains. So, what we are going to do here, if I can get this to work correctly, because now I'm worried about everything breaking in strange ways. Yep, okay. Bring this back up, all right. Should be good here, should be good here. What we are going to do is we are going to start going through, please work, please be set up correctly. We're going to start going through YouTube itself, right? So I want someone to give me a niche that we can go over and we can sort of address what people are doing with their thumbnails. So any niche will work. It can be a specific video game, it can be a specific hobby, be a specific idea. VTuber songs? Alright. So VTuber songs are probably going to have the VTuber as their main focus, and most likely it's going to be using custom art. But we'll try that. So we'll type in VTuber songs here. And like I'm saying here, a lot of it is going to be existing art, but like if we look at Rin Penroses, right? Let me make this a little bit bigger so you guys can actually see what I am seeing here. Go into YouTube, make this a little bit larger. There we go. So Rin Penroses, let's just look at that because it's the least confusing with the least amount of characters, right? So what I'm noticing about hers is I really like the feeling it's giving me, but I feel like there's not quite enough. I shouldn't be going over it. It's gonna autoplay. But the white background and the white text are clashing just a little bit to me, right? What I would probably have done is I would punch up there is a little bit of glow with purple around the edge of the text. I would have pushed that a tiny bit more, just so that we could keep it standing out more from the background. Or I might have reduced the intensity of the background just a tiny bit. The purple and dark background slightly blends with the hair. Also very true, yeah. She's got her flag behind her, and the dark blue and the dark grayish purple is kind of blending in together. I might have given that a tiny bit of a glow. I'd be really, really subtle with it, though, because Rin Penrose is a Prince VTuber, so there's sort of this level of elegance that they want to maintain, and a lot of times, like with the thumbnail that we're doing with Charmander, it's like really poppy, notice me, exaggerated, over the top. You know, Pokemon is marketed as a kid's game. It's very in your face. Whereas I get the feeling that Rin wants to have more of a subdued elegance to it, so they don't want to go with like big glows around themselves and around text. I would have just pushed it a little tiny bit more. I can tell that this is original art. I don't want to critique the artist too much, but I would have maybe added a tiny... It's hard because, you know, the lighting scenario is right. I might have exaggerated the highlights on the hair just a tiny bit, but again, we're getting into art critique there, not thumbnail critique. But, yeah, I mean, I would just push the font with a tiny bit more of a purple glow so that it separates the background and the fonts a bit more so that I can read the word golden faster. What else do we have here? Okay. Luxium, I love you, but I can't read this. I'm sorry. This is a really hard text for me to read. It's going to be really tricky when you've already got the talents all in a row. You've got these 4 separate characters, right? I'm going to try making this a little bit bigger still because I think it's... Where did this go? Hang on one sec. I need to try and make this even larger because it's hard to see. But yeah, I am having a little bit of trouble seeing the text here. I would probably do the same thing. I'd probably add a little bit of a... You know what I would do? Is I would double the glow. I would have a glow on top of a multiply layer. So multiply makes everything darker. A glow is going to make everything brighter. I would have them clashing a little tiny bit so that you still get some of that glowing effect, but then the background is darker so that everything is a little bit brighter and the text can pop out more. The glow shouldn't have been the same color as the text. Yeah, I mean, if it were me, I probably would have made the glow a little more of a different saturated color. In the same way that in art, you don't want to shade with black or highlight with white, right? You want to add a bit of a color to it so that there's a bit of a break there. Also, because they are using what we call a serif font, meaning it has a little bit of that fanciness on the end, unlike some of the fonts that we show with like the Mr. Beast thumbnail where it's all bubbly and easy to read. They are still going for an elegance, but it is harder to make out. So to counteract that, you really have to push the contrast on the edge with those glows. Depending on the device setting, light or dark, some can be easier to read. That's true, yeah. I intentionally pulled this up in dark mode because I knew you guys would yell at me if you saw it in light mode. Not that I would normally, but I was going to throw it up incognito, and then I was like, oh, can't have dark mode there. So I have a fake basic account here just so I could give you guys dark mode. So let's see what else here. I feel when it's so many different colors, a line around text helps more, as it's so many colors it can blend into. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Let's see here. The Villain Vibes one I think is okay. It's a lot of bright colors against, black and white together. I think that works. They are using lawn words, so they want to show, Callie and Amelie together. I think this is probably this probably works because the original art is taking up so much of the focus that the text can take a step back. I like that they still have the title. I like that it's not just the art, so I can get an idea that it is a song title. I think this works. The only thing I might have considered is maybe not using a true black, maybe using like a dark purple. Because we do have a little bit of dark purple, dark blue in the background there. But I think for the most part that works. The white outline on the word Villain Vibes is getting a little bit lost, but I still think it's workable. Let's see what else here. This is really good. This is really good. This 100 songs. It's very basic. There's not much to it. It's just, you know, all of the different Hololive songs. But notice what they did. The one thing that I'm noticing, right? We have 100 different songs to work with. And you have to get the idea of that, so you want to give a teaser. But what they did is they put them all together, and then they blurred the background. And by blurring the background, it's not the main focus, but we can still see, like, tiny bits here and there. We get the idea that there's a lot of different things going on, but we don't need to see all of them perfectly. This thumbnail would be, frankly, pretty horrible if the background wasn't blurred, but by blurring the background and then adding that subtle glow around the text so that the white kind of pushes the background back and makes it more obscure, makes it a little bit more abstract, it becomes a really good, clear, easy to see thumbnail. There's no question about what it is. I fell back asleep midway. Did you talk about brand recognition? Same style of thumbnail each time so you immediately know whose vid it is. Yeah, I did. So I was talking about Point Crow, and we were talking about Mr. Beast and how when you are at a very large level, yeah, that's right. When you're at a very large level in content creation, you don't really need to, you can experiment, figure out what works, and even if you don't have text, it can really still stand out. And then I was also mentioning that with Thorn Scale, right? I talked a little bit about color theory and how he is a purple dragon, and he uses bright yellow in his logos, and like a dark bluish purple and a yellow are complementary colors. Or, I say complementary, contrasting colors. I'm getting my definitions all mixed up now. And it's really iconic. And when I see a video that is by Thornscale, and I see, you know, the purple blur of the detailed dragon, and then the big, bright yellow fonts in the really easy-to-see colors, I can immediately pick out his videos. He has been keeping it very consistent. It's very recognizable. I can pick out his videos a mile away at this point. So yeah, brand recognition, I would say with style, with font choice, definitely with color. Because color is going to be, like, your main recognizer, right? I actually have a harder problem with that than most people because I'm a rainbow. I have a lot of rainbow going on. I have sort of this, like, crystally, bluish, bluish pink, obscure, pastel works. I definitely made my life harder. But that's okay because, you know, it's what I am. It's the aesthetic I like. But notice, like, my spellbook, the cloth on my spellbook is a really deep navy. So if I'm going to use big, crystally, bright, light-hearted pastels, I gotta go with, like, dark, deep navies of the night sky to stand out. I'm actually working on still trying to figure out my own thumbnail style. At the moment, I am basing all the thumbnails as to what works best for the specific videos. So it's still something that I am trying to figure out as well. But definitely be playing around with, like, the iconic colors of your VTuber theme, and that is definitely, that goes into branding. I could do, like, a 24-hour talk on branding, honestly. But, branding with color and, iconic themes, you can definitely get to the point where you have thumbnails that just stand out as yours immediately. Not only that, purple and yellow are the colors that have the most contrast between all the opposite colors. Yeah, true, true. Do you think it's worth to try and keep a consistent appearance across your thumbnails, or should each stand out with concern for the others in your catalog? It's something I'm still experimenting with. Again, like I was saying, I think that what I do at the moment is just trying to figure out what works best for each video, and I want to sort of evolve myself to keeping them more consistent with my channel and my brand, but because I'm just, like, because all of us are fairly new content creators in the grand scheme of things, I'm not focusing too much on developing the brand side yet. I'm hoping to sort of ease my way into that, into the year. At the moment, I am just focusing on what is the most eye-catching. Like, the thumbnail video that I did, the video on making thumbnails, because if you guys go to my own YouTube channel, I do have a video on sort of summarizing the lesson here today. That thumbnail was not made with my brand in mind at all. I don't use greens, I don't use bright reds. I entirely made that thumbnail to be the most eye-catching for YouTube viewers. I wasn't thinking of my brand in that piece in the slightest. There's arguments for both. In a sense, it matters on the sense of consistency, but if you're nobody, but if you're nobody, nobody will care. Yeah, exactly. Don't stress about it all at once, stress about it 1% at a time. Keep going, you eventually get past the full stress. Like, yeah. So what we were saying earlier, right? Like, Mr. Beast can make a thumbnail where it is just his face and a giant golden yacht, and everyone immediately recognizes the Mr. Beast style of thumbnail making. But in the beginning, I think that you can be very experimental and sort of see what works for you. See what fonts work for you, see what sort of encapsulates your brand, right? Like, this isn't even a VTuber, but I'm looking at this thumbnail right now. This one that says Night Dancer. It doesn't follow any of the things that we talked about, right? It doesn't follow the super bold, it doesn't follow the super eye-catching colors, it doesn't follow any of the golds or the glows or the outlines or any of that, but it still works. And if you were a YouTuber or a VTuber and you sort of had this, like we were saying with Rin Penrose, right? Like maybe this more elegant, subdued, quiet, I don't know what this guy sounds like. It could be, you know, hard rock for all I know. But, you can build a brand, without using the crazy, over-the-top, thick bubble letters and outlines. If what you have is more calm, if what you have is, more elegant and special and specified, you can definitely work with a brand that uses thinner fonts, less intense colors, less push, right? Pretty subdued sonnets everywhere in Japan. Alright. 92 million views, there you go. But yeah, just because someone like Mr. Beast has all the crazy bubble fonts that everyone wants to copy, doesn't mean that you necessarily need to use all that, right? Like, you can see in my logo right now, in the lower left corner. It doesn't have the crazy, intense Mr. Beast, but notice that I have kind of the more serif, a little bit more whimsical, a little bit more swirly, sparkly, kind of invoking this feeling of, like, magic and fantasy. And then right below it, I have the easy-to-read bubble letters. Now, the easy-to-read bubble letters are not tied with my logo, but together, it makes one easy to read what kind of VTuber I am, and then the name can be a little fancier and with more flourish. So let's see if there's any more here. Like, alright, Trickweed, obviously, they've hit, like, everything we were talking about, right? They've got the outlines, the double outlines, the overlap of outlines, the gradient. This is super, super, super clear. And then it's just the one title. They actually tilted it. This is really interesting. They tilted it so that it avoided that timestamp, and it also gave it more dynamism and movement. And then they had the art itself being very dynamic and bold and fitting the art with the colors. So it doesn't always have to be contrast. It doesn't always have to be, like, we don't have to have pink and bright yellow, right? The black, white, and purple and pinks together still work really well, and it still pops out at us. And I think you guys generally get the idea at this point with like the main elements of thumbnail design and a little bit of branding, right? We talked a little bit about branding too. Are there any final questions that anyone might have for me at the moment? Anything that you want me to go over or talk about in regards to color, brand, story, any of those things? Or anything that you would like me to sort of express or go more in depth to in regards to any of the thumbnail points we made? Do you guys feel like the next thumbnail you make, you've taken something that you can definitely push going forward? Do you feel like you're excited to do your next thumbnails? Like, you know that you can make it really, really good? You've kind of got the main ideas down? I want you to go over a 24-hour branding stream. Maybe someday. Maybe someday. I'm definitely excited. Yes? Awesome. I'm really glad to hear that. I feel much more confident. I'm glad. I'm glad. It makes me really happy to hear. Well, if you guys want, as I was saying before, if you go to my YouTube channel, my name is Starlight Akari, and my latest video is a quick, like, 10 minutes overview. It goes through everything we talked about here. It goes, you know, it's the same Pokemon thing, right? So you can take what you learned here, and you can kind of get the rundown. It's evergreen. You can look at it whenever you want to, or if there's any part in this VOD that you want to check back into as well. But I simplified it all down for you. I broke down the concepts. I made it easy for you to understand, and you can check it out anytime. And I keep, going forward, I want to be making a lot more design tutorials, tips and tricks, especially on branding. I have almost an addiction to branding, where I love talking about it. I love talking about things like lore and design, elements and attributes, ways that you can bring your story into the visual landscape. I think it is super fun to talk about that stuff, so if you ever want to go over any of that, definitely let me know, poke me, bother me. I love talking about it. If you haven't yet, make sure that you join the VTuber Senpai Discord. I'm a mod there, and I like to help out a lot with design and things. And you can come say hi. If you're usually a stream watcher, come check us out in the Discord. It's a lot of fun, and make sure that you like and subscribe to VTuber Senpai's channel if you haven't yet. And I think that that is about where we are going to call it today. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. It's been really fun being here. You guys have been really good sports, really kind to me. I appreciate your hospitality. And I wish you all the best. Thank you so much. And have a great rest of your day, evening, or night. All the best, guys.